The old truck rattled into the dusty town of Cedar Creek, kicking up swirls of red dirt behind it. The man behind the wheel wore a faded denim jacket, a weather-beaten cowboy hat pulled low over his face, and boots that had seen 100 trails. His name was Cole Weston, but no one in town knew that name anymore. To them, he was just another drifter. A loner with a silent gaze and a past no one dared to ask about. That morning, as he stepped into the Broken Spur diner for coffee, he caught her eye. Emma Langley was used to tourists and drifters. They passed through Cedar Creek with the wind, never staying long enough to make a difference. She ran the diner alone, since her father passed away, and with every pot of coffee she poured, her dreams of leaving town drifted further out of reach. When the stranger walked in, dusty and tired, she didn't think much of it. Just another guy passing through. But there was something about the way he moved. Slow, deliberate, like a man carrying ghosts on his back. "Coffee?" she asked. He nodded once, wordlessly, and sat at the counter like he'd done it 100 times before. She poured it, curious. "You new around here?" He looked up. Steel blue eyes. Sad. "Just passing through." A quiet moment passed between them, stretched thin like barbed wire. "Name's Emma," she said, trying to break the silence. "Cole." They didn't say much that day, or the next. But he kept coming back, same time, same stool. He never asked for more than coffee, but left a tip big enough to raise eyebrows. She asked him once why he overpaid. He shrugged. "Figure people ought to be paid what they're worth." Emma started to look forward to his visits. They talked more as the days passed. She learned he used to ride horses in rodeos. Said he grew up on a ranch, a long way from here. But he always dodged questions about where he was headed or where he'd come from. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Cole found Emma sweeping the front porch of the diner. Her blouse was damp with sweat, and there were tired circles under her eyes. "You ever think of leaving this place?" he asked. She paused. "Every day." "Then why stay?" She leaned on the broom, looking out at the empty street. "Because this diner was my dad's. And because I don't know anything else." Cole nodded like he understood too well. "Sometimes we stay in places because we're afraid of what's out there. Or what we'll find if we leave." They didn't talk after that. Just stood in silence, the sky bleeding orange and gold behind them. But something changed that night. He started showing up before the sun rose, helping her carry crates, fix a broken sink, repair a shelf. Always quiet, always kind. People in town started noticing. Whispers spread. "Who is that cowboy?" "No idea. But he paid for the town church's roof last week, anonymously." Emma tried to ignore the rumors, but one day she followed him. He had disappeared after helping her fix the old freezer. She drove behind his truck for miles until he turned off down a private dirt road that twisted through tall pines. She parked and walked. What she found stole her breath. Beyond the trees sat a massive ranch, gates rusted but elegant, a stone mansion in the distance, barns the size of warehouses, horses roaming freely. It looked abandoned, but well kept. Quiet. Still. She turned to leave, but there he was. Behind her. Watching. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. Is this yours?" Cole looked away. "It was. I left it all behind. Years ago." "Why?" He didn't answer. Just stared at the mountains. "Finally," he said, "I built this place with my brother. We turned dust into empire. Then he died, and I didn't know how to breathe anymore. So I left it. Wandered. Been drifting ever since." Emma's voice trembled. "You own half the state, Cole. Why are you sweeping floors in my diner?" He smiled sadly. Because it's the first place in a long time that feels real. She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. And what about love? You ever feel that again? His eyes met hers, full of storms, full of stories he hadn't told. I hadn't. Not until I met you. For the first time in years, Cole let himself feel it. The ache of longing. The fear of losing. The hope of something new. But love doesn't come easy, not when you've been burned by loss. Emma pushed him away the next day. Said she didn't want to be another chapter in a man's escape story. Said she couldn't fall for someone who wouldn't stay. Cole left. 3 weeks passed. She told herself she didn't miss him, but the silence in the diner screamed louder than the jukebox ever had. Then, on the morning of the town's annual fair, the mayor announced a surprise sponsor. A donation big enough to rebuild the school, fix the roads, and offer scholarships for every local kid. The donation card read, "In memory of Jake Weston, because dreams don't die if you believe in second chances." And then she saw him. Cole, standing at the edge of the crowd. Cowboy hat in his hand. Vulnerable. Waiting. Emma didn't hesitate. She ran to him, threw her arms around him, and whispered, "You don't have to drift anymore." He smiled. "Only if you'll be my anchor." They rebuilt the ranch together. The diner stayed open. He taught her how to ride. She taught him how to laugh again. He didn't need half the state to be rich. All he needed was her love to feel whole again. Moral: sometimes the people who seem the most lost are the ones who can lead us home. And love, true love, isn't about what you have. It's about what you're willing to give. Let your heart drift, but never forget to return.